Welcome to A Drink of Wisdom with Nathan Drinkard. I'm Jay Wise. Thanks for spending some of your time with us. You know where to find us. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, just all whatever the rest of them are. There's so many of them. I can't keep track of them. Normally I say three, but anyway, we're also on we got a YouTube channel, the A Drink of Wisdom YouTube channel. You can find us there for the video format of the show and streaming live on the Colorcast app. Drink, haven't seen you in, I'd say 10 days or so. You've been snowed in and all the rest of it. It's great to see you, man.
Hey, and I'm great. I'm happy to be seen. Yeah, man. Going down. I don't know. In the great state of Virginia, we had a little winter storm, and I don't think we took it serious. And let's just say Mother Nature got the last laugh because she smoked us up here. So. With that said, now everything seems to be settled. I mean, still a lot of snow around, but nothing to impede anybody. The power seems to be stable now, and I'm back on another tremendous Tuesday. Glad to be in the lab with you, but I got to ask, man, how everything going over there with you and yours?
Oh, we're good, man. We're moving. It's getting to be that time, less than a week away. So you know what that
Lot going
means.
on. A lot going on. Yep. So let me try to save my boy Jay some time and go get this thing rolling. You know what it is. It's another day, another dollar. We got to give the streets what they need. We see what they don't. Absolutely say what they want. Set your dinner plates, because whether you ate or not, that's not really our problem, because it's time to eat. And last but not least, let's talk some sports, baby. What's on the agenda today, Jay?
All right, episode 31 of season 3. We're going to look ahead to who might challenge for next year's college football playoff. We're going to recap week 18, and we're going to discuss those NFL coaches who got pink slips at the season's conclusion. But we have to start today after the day after the national championship game, where the Georgia Bulldogs win their first national title in 41 years, 33-18 over the defending champs, the number one Alabama Crimson Tide. Georgia's also set a school record for wins in the season at 14. They get Stetson Bennett, 17 for 26, threw for 224 yards and 2 touchdowns. Zamir White and James Cook would combine for, probably a buck 50 on the ground. Can't do the math there that quick for some reason. You also had Brock Bowers, a receiving touchdown in the Georgia defense, 4 sacks, as they held Bama to just 1 touchdown in this game after getting lit up in the SEC title game. So that defense definitely coming in play last night. On the other side, Bryce Young, 35 for 57, 369 yards, 1 touchdown. He did throw 2 interceptions. Jameson Williams had 4 catches for 65 yards before leaving the game in the second quarter with a knee injury. And Brian Robinson, 22 carries, 68 yards, caught 4 passes for 28 yards. And Christian Harris, big effort on the defense. He picked up 3 sacks. Drink, I know it was a tough one for you last night. I assume, or I hope, that a lot of those emotions have calmed down a little bit, and you'll be primed to give us some of that outstanding objective analysis on this one.
Hey, listen, you know me, man. I'm all about the objective. I'm about the objective analysis. But listen, in a time where usually I get my jabs in. First of all, I want to start off by saying, hey, congratulations to the Georgia Bulldogs, a well-deserved win last night. I think they deserve to be the national champions. Would I wanted my boys to win the game? Absolutely. However, hats off to them, man. They came to play. Kirby Smart had them ready. This is a team that Alabama had already beat, earlier in the season. So, it was said that Alabama had Georgia number, but Georgia came out and showed they were the better team. Like, even with the injuries, they showed why they were the more consistent team. And listen, at the end of the day, Alabama had opportunities. They squandered those opportunities. You get in there, you kick 4 field goals. When you get into the red zone 4 times and you leave with 4 field goals, and then you get 1 block, that's just not going to cut it. That's not going to get the job done. Not in the national championship game. They might get the job done when you're on that off week playing Toledo. That might get the job done. But when you're at the pinnacle of the sport and you're playing for a national championship and you're playing a team like Georgia, a team have what they have, you cannot you cannot be out here kicking field goals. And I think that bit Alabama in the butt, because honestly, if you watch the game, Bryce Young moved the ball. Even, he moved the ball pretty well when he had Jameson in the game, but at the end of the day, he moved the ball. And what I didn't understand, and we ran the ball pretty well with Brian Robinson, and then the few times that Trey Sanders came in relief. And we went away from it for whatever reason. Listen, one thing I do understand, Georgia got a tremendous run defense, but you have to run the ball. And the thing is, I understand why you didn't run the ball in the SEC championship game, because he was banged up. Now you got a healthy guy that wants to carry the load. You have to give a young quarterback some help. I thought we was a little conservative with that for whatever reason. And then we fell in love with the pass. Now I get it. If you want to beat Georgia, the best way to beat Georgia is get the ball over their head. I got that. And that would have been an incredible strategy if you still had John Mechie out there with Williams, with the others. The problem is you didn't. So when you pass the ball that much, Bryce Young tend to try to trust the true freshmen the same way that he was trusting, a 4-year junior or whatever the case might be. And that end up just it was so many plays. Like, for example, I seen balls that he threw deep to Jaji Hall or Brooks, for example. And I'm looking and I'm saying, if that's Williams, if that's Mechie, those are catches. But with these young guys that's not used to playing with these lights this bright, it was a bit much, and hats off to him, man. I don't want to beat the young fellas up, but what it came down to, and you said this before we got the show started, listen, when you seen Williams down there holding his knee, you, as an Alabama fan, it sucked the air out of the area you was in, because you had to think to yourself, our next best receiver is either Slade Bolden or it's Jaleel Bisley. And I'm telling you right now, we are in trouble, folks. We are in trouble. And I thought through all that, what last night did show, I guess I get up in the morning and I see all these sports media outlets, and they're like, well, Bryce Young, he looked at pedestrian. He did not have a good game. He did see that. And I don't know if we was looking at the same game or not, but what I seen was, yeah, he pressed some. I'll be lying if I didn't say he pressed some. He moved. He got a little, jittery in the pocket. Rightfully so. This is Georgia. So, but he was putting the ball where it needed to be, and it was too many drop passes out there. You had Aji Hall. He dropped 2 touchdowns and a first down by himself. My man Jaleel Bisley didn't even show up. He didn't even come out the bus. I don't know what he had going on, but he was not there at all. And then what's the other guy? Brooks. He tried to do what he did, but he dropped the sure hand one. Holden. It's just, listen, you just could see the tears drop once you seen these guys come in. We went from an A team to a B team to a downright D team, and then so forth on the offense. But to Bryce Young credit, I have to say, listen, he tried. He gave it what he had. It is what it is. You got to understand, the leaders on this team were sophomores, and you're playing a senior-laden Georgia team, and this team wanted it, and they was hungry. So I kudos to Alabama for even getting to the national championship, because this was supposed to be a true rebuild year after everything that went on last year, and they still did. They still beat the top tier competition. They still showed up when they needed to, and they was in the national championship game. Now, going over to Georgia, man, listen, well deserved. If you would have asked me if Stetson Bennett could have delivered a championship to Georgia, I would have gave you the outstanding hell no. But he did. He didn't turn over the ball. I mean, listen, the one thing that Stetson was like, you could guarantee was put some pressure on him, he's going to turn over the ball. Put some pressure on him. He fumbled the ball, but, I mean, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't the worst thing in the world because Alabama didn't do anything with the ball, but he fumbled, but he didn't throw those critical interceptions. He didn't throw the pick six. It was actually Bryce Young out here throwing the pick six rather than Stetson Bennett. But he didn't make that egregious mistake, and I think that's what kept him in. And to the point that you was making before the show when we was talking, it almost seems to me. So when Williams went down, all right, it was before half, so you had a little gameplay before then. You go off to the half, you come back. Georgia gets the ball first. Alabama do an outstanding job getting them off the field. Then Alabama gets the ball back. And that drive, that first drive, is kind of what made me feel like, I don't know, it's looking iffy. Because I think that drive they got down there, they scored a field goal, but you can tell like Bryce Young wasn't comfortable with what was going on. And then now you can tell Georgia is just like, you know what? We just gonna come up and smother these guys and see what they're gonna do. And once that drive was over, I felt like when the offense went back, the defense looked at them like, for real? So this is what we're gonna do? And the defense never was the same. If you go back and look at the second drive Georgia had in the third quarter, from that drive to the end of the game, the defense looked out of sorts. I mean, the defensive linemen stopped. They couldn't get no more push. The linebackers started being out of play. We start sending that no success blitz that we seeing, where we just seeing 8 and 10 in there, and they get lost in the shuffle and never get to the quarterback. And next thing you know, is a long pass down the sideline. And then you seen it. Forgot the guy named Aiden Mitchell. You seen that, like they got Bama offsides, threw it down there for a free play. He catches it. Just embarrasses the DB. And before that play, listen, I had to give a young man some credit. A smart play because he was burnt like toast. He was burnt. So hey, just hold on to him for dear life. Just get the penalty. I don't care. I don't care. Let them drag you down the field, but just take the penalty. And I thought maybe we could bow up in the red zone, but as you seen, they end up scoring on that drive with that long run. And I think at the end of the day, and Nick said this to Kirby himself after the game, they whooped our ass in the fourth quarter. This is what it is. The fourth quarter, they came out there with the old plow, and they plowed us on out of the way. It was not pretty for us in the fourth quarter. But like to your credit, like you said, the run game started picking up. That's when you seen Zamir White get a long run. Then you seen James Cook get a long run. And once I seen those two runs, I'm not gonna lie to you. I said, yeah, the defense might be a little bit defeated now because they don't think they have enough. And that ended up what happening. And two things that lost this for Bama. I think one, the missed opportunities. You can't be in the red zone 5 times and come away with 12 points. 12 points because the one was blocked.
Right.
That really hurt them because Georgia wasn't in the red zone all that much, but when they got in the red zone, they made it work. They made it happen. They scored touchdowns. Brock Bauer scored a touchdown when they was in the red zone. Zamir White scored a touchdown when they was in the red zone. You start getting those touchdowns, it start adding up. But not to take the shine away from Georgia, hell of a year. The SEC got it again. So, the last 3 winners been LSU, Alabama, and now Georgia. So kudos to that for the people that say, Alabama is the only team in the SEC. I don't know. It's not really looking that way. But when I look at those missed opportunities and the fact that we just was, listen, I don't want to use the injury like excuse, but at the end of the day, I mean, you play with what you got, and sometimes you don't got enough. We wasn't looking like Alabama. We was looking more like Alabama A&M because the talent had took a nice decrease. But either way, kudos to Georgia. And, yeah, man, I mean, Alabama will be back here next year. I'm not quite sure about Georgia, but we'll get into a little of that later. But with that said, man, Georgia, shouts out to Kirby Smart and his boys, man. They deserve it. But at the end of the day, roll tide.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, you got to say, unlike the 2 national semifinals, I thought this game really delivered, despite the fact that at the end of the night, you had the pick 6 that made it somewhat look non-competitive, but it was anything but. I mean, 26-18, even after, I think that was that was that Bauer? I think that was Brock Bowers'
Well,
touchdown
yeah,
that made it
right, right.
26-17. After that, I mean, it's still setting up like, okay, time for the Bryce Young show. And, they moving the ball a little bit. They get into Georgia territory, and then you have the pick six to seal it. But, I thought it was an incredibly competitive game. I thought the contrast of how things went from one half to another, because the first half was just a dogfight. I mean, both defenses were absolutely in charge. As you say, the offense, especially Alabama's offense, was able to move the ball quite well. But as you say, they just couldn't take advantage, of the opportunities, And to me, like, as great as this Georgia defense is, and as much respect for them, we do have to recognize Alabama moved the ball to the tune of almost 400 yards. So it's not like Georgia just came out here and just shut them down, but they had a little bend but don't break to them in this game, and they made the plays when it mattered most. And there was some occasions where Alabama just left some plays on the field. So I think you have to say Georgia deserved this. I think in the end, when you look at this season in totality, they were the most consistent team. I think they got a wake up call in the SEC title game. They had I mean, Bryce Young did what Bryce Young did. Bryce Young is the Heisman Trophy winner this season. I think he's the best quarterback in college football, and I think he's a surefire number one pick when he comes out. But what you saw in this game was, to me, like I said, it was going to come down to, Bryce Young and that Bama offense against Georgia's defense. That was the matchup to me. And in round one, Bryce Young did what he did. In this game, Georgia's defense, they got him back a little bit. And the two keys that I talked about on Friday's show, number one, can Georgia get pressure? Can they get him off his spot and make him uncomfortable? And they did. They got after him from the very beginning. They threw some complex blitzes at him, got him in his head a little bit maybe. He still ended up, like you say, I thought he played as well as he could have given the circumstances. But I mean, as with most quarterbacks, and I think the numbers bear this out, when Bryce Young's under pressure, he has a little bit more trouble. And that's not anything unusual. But Georgia needed to get pressure on him, because if you just let him sit in the pocket, he's going to carve you up. But they got him off his spots. They got pressure on him. That was a big deal. And then, the other key was, and it turned into an even bigger issue, with no John Mechie, could Jameson Williams, could he do it by himself, or was he going to get help? Well, he ended up leaving the game after it looked like he was going to have a big night. And then after that, it's just tough, because all these other guys, you could just tell they may turn out to be fine players. And, Bryce Young, I'm sure they're going to have a lot of opportunities to catch footballs from him next year. But on this stage, at this level, it just wasn't quite enough against this defense. Whether it's Slade Bolden, Ja'Cory Brooks. I like the kid, G Hall. I think he looks like he's got some real talent. It just looked like this was too soon for him. But it was just, even though I do say, like, Georgia deserves all the credit in the world for this win and this season, but you just do wonder a little bit if John Mechie was there and if Jameson Williams hadn't got hurt. Really think this might have looked a little bit differently. But I mean, that's how it goes sometimes in these when you talk about championship teams. A lot of times the championship team catches a little break here and there, and sometimes that's the difference. And I really do think, in the second half, I think the key, you saw in the third quarter when Bama had that field goal blocked. That was so huge, because Bama had, and I think I made a comment at the time in that little chat. I said, man, Bama's dominating the ball. At some point you kind of felt like Georgia's defense, like, how much were they going to be able to withstand? Because Bama just kept on running play after play. They was on the field forever, it felt like. They run a 7.5 minute, 17 play drive, and they get nothing. And then the very next play, James Cook busts one. And then that's where I felt, oh, no, that don't look good. And then Zamir White ends up punching it in. And from that point, and Alabama did come down. They kicked another field goal, and then they got the little break, because I thought that fumble by Bennett was an incomplete pass, but they get lucky, and you got the kid on the sideline who just lollygags over there and catches a fumble, and they get the ball there, and that was their only touchdown. Bama's only touchdown was a 16-yard drive. They get the short pass to Latu, tight end, but save that touchdown drive. Bama could not break through. They had there was a missed throw that Bryce Young had in the right corner, at one point to forget which receiver it was, but you could tell like when he was coming off the field, he was really
Right.
upset at himself because he knew he missed one, and that's kind of it was a drop here, a miss by Bryce Young there. They just quite weren't good enough to beat this defense, and but even so, like I really feel like the Georgia defense and their running game was the story. And no disrespect to Stetson Bennett, but if you came away thinking that Bennett was the difference in that game, you weren't paying attention. It was the Georgia running game when James Cook busted that run, and then later on Zamir White started just chewing up 5 and 6 yards every play. That was the difference. And then it led to the play action with Stetson Bennett, and of course, next thing you know, Brock Bowers is lollygagging into the end zone himself.
I think it is something to say about Bennett not turning over the ball though, because I mean, in the past, he's been the starter for the past 2 games. One of the things that kind of hurt Georgia just as much as the defense or so is Bennett would give us extra possessions. He would give Alabama extra possession. We seen how the pick six worked against them in the SEC championship game, and then if you go back to the game last year, he threw some timely interceptions as well. Matter of fact, it was the first 4 plays of the last year game was interceptions. You had one by Mac Jones because he got hit, and then Georgia get the ball 2 plays later. They throw another interception, give Alabama the ball back. With Stetson not turning the ball over, I do think that's a big point for Georgia's offense because now you was able to stay on time. Don't get me wrong, Stetson is the guy that really needs the run game to work. That's why he was struggling in the first half because the run game was getting stifled. Once it bust open in the third quarter, like you said, we had a whole different game. So I see where you come from. I just think him keeping the turnovers low definitely was a contributing factor.
No. Yeah, and I agree with that 100%. But again, if you contrast it to the SEC title game where Georgia couldn't run the ball and Stetson Bennett, he's asked to do more, it's a little bit of a different story. I thought really in the second half, once they got that running game going, then it became easier for that Todd Monken offense to do what they do, which is run it, play action, and that's how they did. And really, outside of that fumble, which I didn't really look like a fumble, it was a huge break for Alabama, but that was the last time Alabama's defense could muster a stop because the other 3 touchdown drives, the one before with the James Cook long run, and then the 2 after that fumble, Georgia just marched. They dominated, and they bullied Alabama's defensive line, just pushed them back over and over. And it was really remarkable to see the turn after that blocked field goal because that was the point where I was like, man, is Georgia's defense going to keep able to stand, keep turning Alabama away? When are they going to break down? And they never did. They never broke. It was Alabama's defense that just couldn't hold on in the end.